Hello and welcome to the 2025 Capital Improvement Program Informational Presentation. I'm Andy Radig and I'm joined today by our City of Oshkosh Director of Public Works, James Rabe. James, thanks for being here, and what can people expect to learn in this program today?
Well, thanks for having me, Andy. I know it's been a few years we've been doing this, and I think it's been a valuable tool for helping get information out to everyone. So what we're going to do is go over a little bit of an overview of the Capital Improvement Program. We had our first workshop with Council the end of July, preparing to move through the process, including having an in-person neighborhood meeting coming up on August 8th. And so we're just trying to give some more information out. This presentation will be the same one that is discussed at the neighborhood meeting. So giving an overview of what's all included in the proposed 2025 Capital Improvement Program.
Very good. And what types of items are included in a capital improvement program?
Really, it's anything and everything that's not in the operating budget. Mm-hmm. So it's usually bigger ticket items. You know, our street reconstruction program is one of the biggest items that's in the capital improvement program. But there's also a lot of things, other sewer and water projects, you know, projects specific to the stormwater utility or the wastewater utility or the water utility. You know, our sidewalk improvements, our sidewalk rehab, you know, traffic improvements if we're doing street lighting or signal upgrades. A lot of the parks projects are included in there as well, and even other general property improvements. You know, say, I think one of the big ones we'll talk about coming up is, you know, the fire department training center over on Sawyer Street. So that's one of those big property improvements projects that's included. Major equipment, so a lot of our vehicles and other big equipment, a lot of the process equipment at the treatment plants are all included in here. And then if there's projects we're doing for some of our tax incremental finance districts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. And I understand that there is a draft of the capital improvement program for 2025 that is available for residents to take a look at.
Yeah, we've got one of the tools that we've started using is an online geographical map, our online GIS system. So projects that can be displayed geographically, you know, street projects or utility projects in the streets are great examples of ones that we can display graphically. So those are ones that are included in that dashboard. And one of the nice things about the dashboard, across the bottom of the screen in the middle of the panel, there's actually the 5 different years for each of the 2 panels. There's one for 2025 through 2029 and another dashboard for 2030 through 2034. Mm-hmm. So each of those years, you could actually click on that year in that lower panel, and it'll filter all the projects by that year, so you'll only see what's in that included year. And then if you want to click back to see everything, just click on it again and it'll clear the filter. Mm-hmm. So it's a really nice tool. There's a lot of project information that is displayed over on the left side of the panel, and you can actually click on any of the projects on the right side or click on them graphically to have a little information pop up menu with more information about the project.
Mm-hmm. So if you really want to do a deep dive into a particular project, it's all right there for you.
It's all right there. This is the same information that is going to be displayed in hard copy. You know, the Common Council at their workshop had a draft of the project detail sheets. All that stuff is here graphically that you can just click on and get that information.
Okay, very good. Well, we have a number of street and utility projects that are coming up for 2025, and I guess we could take a look through some of those.
Yeah, really, a lot of our projects this coming year in 2025 are focused on the local streets. You know, streets are classified arterials, which are, you know, our main routes: Witzel, 9th, Jackson, Oregon, Maine, and then collector streets is kind of that next level below that. And then the local streets is just, you know, those are primarily residential streets. Mm-hmm. You know, so people filter from the locals to the collectors up to the arterials. Okay. So 2025 we're focusing primarily on local streets. We don't have any higher classification streets in the plan. But we got kind of some groupings of areas that we're working. So kind of on the near east side, we've got Bayshore Drive from Broad to Mill Street, Bay Street from Bayshore down to the Fox River, mm-hmm. and then Wagoo Avenue from Rosalia to Lake Winnebago. So those are all kind of in that near east area. Mm-hmm. And then up by the old Webster School, Central Street. Anybody who's driven in that area knows Central Street is just in horrible condition. Mm-hmm. Certainly, you know, we could have done it sooner, but we knew the school district had some things that they've been working on, so we kind of put it off a little bit. But Central Street from New York to Bent is also included in the program. Then, kind of coming down to the other side of the river, the south side, a continuation really of project from this year. Starting Michigan Street, we did it from 5th to 7th in 2024, so we'll be going from 7th Ave to 11th Ave, turning west on 11th Ave and going all the way to Ohio Street. One of the big things I really want to focus on with that Michigan and 11th project, it's really a continuation of a massive storm sewer project to help reduce flooding in that South Park and downstream area. Historically, Ohio Street in the South Park area, 11th, 10th, 9th in this whole area has had a lot of issues with flooding. So this Michigan and 11th reconstruction continues that very large storm sewer upgrade to help drainage in that area. And then moving a little bit further south, 15th Avenue from Oregon to Ohio Street, kind of the first year of several years working in that area. So we're kind of doing one street at a time so as not to disrupt the whole neighborhood. So starting with 15th Avenue this coming year.
Okay, and I understand too that that portion of Wagoo Avenue is a continuation of what was done this year.
There's kind of a gap in between.
Okay.
This year's project ends at Mill Street, so just short of Bowen Street, and then there's a gap between Bowen and Rosalia, and then we're going from Rosalia to the lake. So there's a little bit of space in between there. Okay. But yeah, certainly that will have some massive improvements between 2024 and 2025 on Wagoo Avenue.
Okay, very good. Well then, as far as we talk about these projects, what is the progression of the work then? How do we get started and how do things proceed?
Really, we've already started. In June and July of this year, we started a lot of preparatory work for next year's projects. So we've got a contractor doing soil borings out in the street. That's really to gather information about what's underground and help us with the design plans. Then we've also got another contractor that's going to be televising the storm sewer and the sanitary sewer, including the laterals. And the biggest reason for that is trying to document all the active connections. A lot of times, take Wagoo this year, for example, those utilities are well over 100 years old. So when they built them, they just put a connection in every so often, not knowing where it was going to be needed. All those extra connections start causing problems with letting clear water inflow and infiltration into the sanitary sewer, which overwhelms the sanitary sewer and can cause basement backups. So we televise those sewer systems to identify the active connections so that we only reconnect and install those connections that are active. So we reduce the number of kind of holes in the pipe, if you will, to reduce long-term inflow and infiltration. One of the big things that's important is the construction access agreement. That allows us to televise that lateral up onto private property. And during construction, it also allows us to get the sidewalk replaced. Because in the city of Oshkosh, the back of the sidewalk is the property line or the right-of-way line. So in order to even set the forms, we're encroaching on private property. So those encroachment or construction access agreements are critical to allow us to complete that work and make sure that it's done correctly. A big thing, we're continuing to work with a lead service line replacement. Our water utility or water distribution staff will be starting to canvass the neighborhoods of these construction projects here in the coming weeks in August. But certainly anybody on any of these streets, please visit www.oshkoshwater.com to sign up for a free water service line inspection. Water utility staff will come out and do that inspection, identify the material, and they'll do it at no charge. Other options, you could hire a plumber to do it, or we do have a self-reporting tool available on oshkoshwater.com for you to upload pictures directly to our system so our staff can review them.
Sure. Easier than ever for somebody to report that information, and it's vital for us to get that reported.
It is very vital. It's actually required by law, Andy, with some changes to the federal lead and copper rule that take effect in the middle of October of 2024. We are required by that law to have an inventory of all service lateral materials to all properties in the city, and we're required to have a public-facing dashboard so that people can go look up properties and see what they are. So it is very important for people to help us comply with this law and get this service inventory done.
All right, very good. Well, we talk about the road construction, but there's also a lot of infrastructure that lies underneath that road, including sanitary sewer and water main. So we have some work that is coming up for sanitary sewer as well.
Yeah, we've got some specific projects for just the utilities, not a complete street reconstruction, if you will. Mm-hmm. So sanitary sewer on Nebraska between 8th Avenue and 17th Avenue. With the work that's been done on Oregon Street with the big interceptor project that started in 2018 and will be completing here in 2024, we've taken a lot of flow off of this Nebraska interceptor. Many years ago, in order to deal with the high flows going through it, there was a second parallel interceptor system constructed. So there's one in the ground from the early 1900s, and there's one in the ground from the, I would say, 1970s, 1980s time frame. So that project on Nebraska, we're going to abandon that 100-year-old sewer and get all the connections moved over to the younger sewer we'll say, just to extend the life and eliminate, again, some inflow and infiltration issues. Some water main projects, really, these projects on National Avenue, Lark Street, and Faust Avenue, they're all connected to each other. Yeah. We've been experiencing a lot of water main breaks on these mains. It's just something with the era they were constructed, the soil conditions in this area, interacting with the metal of the pipes, causing a lot of breaks. So this is one of those where our water distribution staff came to our engineering division staff and said, hey, we're really having a lot of problems with these mains. Can you look at doing just a utility replacement project? And certainly, I know a lot of the neighbors have, since the fire training center went in, there's been, maybe a little more experience of those breaks. So we're going to be out there replacing those mains and getting those services reconnected. So hopefully we can eliminate that break problem that we're having in that area.
Okay, very good. All right, and we had touched a little bit on the lead water service replacement, and just a little bit more information about that, if we have it.
Yeah, so for several years now, we've been, the city has been replacing the public side lead water services for decades.
Yeah.
And really the water service from the main to the curb stop, which if you go out and look in your terrace, there's a small, kind of metal disc with a nut in the middle of it. It's probably about 3 to 4 inches in diameter. That's your curb stop.
Sure.
From that point into the street, the water service is the responsibility of the utility. But from that point into the house, the water service is the responsibility of the property owner. So for many years, services that were led from the main to that curb stop were getting replaced, but the private side ones were not. So with changes in the lead and copper rule, we were required to implement a change to the municipal code that requires people to replace lead and galvanized metal services. And the reason galvanized is included in there is if that galvanized was downstream from lead and any lead particles, detached from the lead, they reattach themselves to that galvanized metal. That's just the metallurgy of it. Oh. So the DNR says, if it's galvanized, we consider it lead because of that metallurgy impact. So for the past 5-6 years, we've been utilizing state funds to help residential property owners replace their lead water services. We're still working through some details with the DNR and the EPA on what that looks like for the 2024 construction season. We're hoping to have a final agreement here real soon, but we're still going to keep using that money to help residents replace their private side lead services. Typical cost for replacement of a private side service ranges from $4,000 to $6,000 just for the water service. And a lot of times with these older properties, the sanitary service is laid right next to it. So a lot of times the contractors are just replacing those sewer services at the same time, and that is an additional cost over and above what we've talked about here.
Okay. All right. I know that the city is working on acquiring additional funding to assist with these costs.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we have applied for more funding for 24 and 25 through the Department of Natural Resources, utilizing federal money from the bipartisan infrastructure law. So we're working through all those details, but again, we are very close to getting the 24 agreement, and hopefully the 25 agreement will follow very shortly thereafter. So our city primary contact is Maria Fletcher. Her phone number is 920-236-5258. And again, visit oshkoshwater.com for more information about the lead service replacement program, as well as to sign up for that free inspection by staff.
Okay, very good. All right, then we can get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of when a project is occurring in front of your residence and what types of things you might expect or how that works. There's a lot involved.
There is a lot involved, Andy. It's for a street reconstruction program, you've got a disturbance when the sanitary sewer work goes by. Mm-hmm. You've got a disturbance when the water main work goes by. Then another one when the storm sewer goes by. Mm-hmm. But then the big disturbance is when they excavate and get ready to pave. Yeah. So with all of those disturbances, we recognize it's an impact on day-to-day operations of people and the city staff. So there are a lot of access-related challenges that go with that. So the contractor that ends up being awarded the construction work, we require in our contract with them that they coordinate that residential garbage and recycling pickup to make sure that, if our garbage trucks can't get down the street, they coordinate getting them to where the garbage trucks can pick up. Mm-hmm. So that is one of the things, and we actually change our collection routes as well during construction. Mm-hmm. Say for example, you're on a street that's usually picked up at around, say, noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, if you're having street work done, you're first. Mm. We send our garbage and recycling drivers to the streets under construction first, so they can get in and get out of the contractor's way and just get on, so everybody can get on with their day. Mm-hmm. So that is something that's very important, because a lot of our residents are very accustomed to, I'm on the back half of the route, so you know what, if I don't get my can out till 11 o'clock, it still gets picked up. Mm-hmm. But if your road's under construction, we're going to be there at 7 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it is something to be very conscious of.
Sure.
Vehicle access to driveways, as I mentioned, when the utilities go by, there'll be short-term interruptions. But when we start excavating to get ready for paving, it's 6 weeks or so that you won't have access to your driveway for your car. So you've got to park on an adjacent street or something nearby. That being said, for businesses, we do require our contractors to maintain access to businesses at all times. Mm-hmm. But there is parking available on adjacent cross streets, and we will look at the parking restrictions that exist on those adjacent streets, mm-hmm. and we'll sometimes alter them during the course of the construction project, just to try to facilitate property owners being able to park near their homes.
Sure. And also the U.S. Postal Service makes some adjustments with this as well.
Yeah, especially in neighborhoods where you still might have, we call them rural type mailboxes, the mailbox out on the street. Yeah. If your mailbox is on the front of your house, really not a lot of impact other than, your postal carrier needs to kind of work through the construction a little bit. But if you've got a rural type mailbox, we got to, take some effort, and our contractors got to work with the post office to make sure that people's mail can still get delivered. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Another, thing that we're very conscious of during design is any special access needs that can present unique challenges. Certainly if somebody is disabled and can't traverse a long distance, we want to know about that during design so that we can incorporate provisions in our contract for the contractors to maintain parking very close for those individuals. So if anybody on any of these streets, is in that situation, or if one of their neighbors is in that situation where, you just don't have the mobility, please call the engineering division and ask to talk to the engineer on the project, and they'll take that information and they will work that into the contract document so that our contractor can be aware of it.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good. All right, and then this year there were some major changes as far as the costs to our residents for these special assessments and things. So if you can outline a little bit about what residents can expect this year that may have changed from last year.
Yeah, certainly, our special assessment policy is still in place, but the Common Council adopted an alternative funding mechanism to replace special assessments for just some of the aspects of the project. Mm-hmm. And those aspects are street reconstruction, driveway apron replacement, and sidewalk rehabilitation. Special assessments for utility-related work are not included in that special assessment replacement funding mechanism. So the concrete pavement was really the major expense, especially on these street reconstruction projects. But there are still some utility costs that go along with these projects. We have not calculated what the rates will be yet for 2025. Once we get through construction this year, we'll start doing those calculations. But some information that is available for residents is the rates that are being charged here in 2024. And those are for sanitary sewer laterals, for new laterals, 100% of that cost is assessed. For laterals that are existing, it's split 50-50. For sanitary sewer laterals. Storm sewer laterals, it's a flat rate. Council's adopted a flat rate for installation of a new storm sewer lateral. Water services, if there's a new service going in, 100% of the cost is passed on to that property. But if we're just relaying the public portion of that, as we talked about earlier, from the curb stop to the main, there's no cost to the property owner for that. And then new sidewalk was also not included in the special assessment replacement program.
So really, that's quite a savings for those residents.
It's a significant reduction in those special assessment costs. Yes.
All right. Well, I know that there has already been some discussion with council regarding the capital improvement program, and we have some more discussion that is coming up in the future.
Yeah, the Common Council had their first budget workshop on July 30th, and that was really focused on the capital improvement program and really trying to nail down how much general obligation borrowing we were going to do. But then, as I mentioned, there are some things coming up. The Plan Commission reviews the capital improvement program for consistency with our comprehensive plan. That will be taking place on August 20th. And then the Common Council will be asked to approve the plan itself. Not the funding or the budget, but the plan itself for 2025 at their meeting on August 27th. Beyond that, then we're going to be working a lot on operating budget items, and then the capital budget and the operating budget go together to Common Council for budget review and approval. That budget hearing is November 6th, and then looking to get the Common Council to approve the budget on November 12th.
Okay, all right. So there's a lot more discussion to come. And as far as if anybody has any questions about any of this, what is the best way to get in touch?
The best thing to do is to reach out to the Public Works main office, which is also the Engineering Division office. That number is 920-236-5065. The city's website, as we mentioned, has the dashboard. It has the draft plan is already up there. And then if somebody wants to email in, our generic Public Works email address, dpw@oshkoshwi.gov. There are several of us that have access to that address so that we can monitor for questions and get them routed to the correct people to get answers. Certainly, any of the council meetings that come up, this is not an agenda item on, it can be addressed during public comment to the council. For any of them that it is an agenda item, it can be addressed during that agenda item.
Okay, all right. Well, James, we've talked about a lot of material here today, quite a bit actually. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything else that you'd like to share?
I think there's a couple of things, Andy. Besides the operating budget, the capital budget, these two are the two biggest things that we do. And this capital improvement program, quite honestly, has the biggest impact to our property owners and our residents, especially if you're on one of these streets that's being reconstructed. You will be significantly impacted, and we recognize that, and we do our best to minimize that impact. Our staff work regularly with the contractors to make sure that they are minimizing the impacts as much as possible, but it certainly is an impact. I think one valuable tool that we've done over the past several years is we've implemented a weekly email distribution for all of our construction projects. So if people go to the engineering or the capital improvement webpage, you can get linked to another page to sign up for email distribution lists, and then all of the projects are listed. So you can pick which project you want to sign up to receive weekly updates on. So that again is another way for, instead of having to call, hey, I know every Friday or Monday I'm going to get an email from the staff member working on this project, giving me an update on what's going on in this project. So that is another valuable way to get information. We've also implemented a construction activity and traffic restrictions CIP, or not CIP dashboard, but a dashboard just like the CIP that shows all the construction activity, all the traffic restrictions and road closures, even for things like a special event or a work in the right-of-way permit are all included on those weekly reports. So again, just like the CIP, oh, I can see this street, this block of the street is marked. You can click on it and see what's going on. And for our construction projects, you can actually have a link to our weekly update, because we publish a one-page, I don't want to call it a brochure, but it's a one-page informational fact sheet that gets published every week with our weekly construction emails. And those are all linked on that construction dashboard as well. So there are a lot of ways to get information about projects during construction. And as always, pick up the phone and call the engineering division, and we'll be happy to get some information to people. But this is probably the biggest thing that we do, and that's to provide good quality utilities, streets, to our residents, to our properties. And it's one of the things over the years we've received the most complaints about is street condition. For a lot of years, I received a lot of complaints about Algoma, Wisconsin, Wagoo. Well, the last 3 years we've gotten those streets done. So, it's kind of always a little bit of a thing in engineering. We're kind of dry humor. It's like, well, which one's the next street, and see if we got it on our plan already to see, where if our focus is in line with the residents. So it is very important. We want to make sure that we're getting people the information, and we also recognize the impact it has on people's daily lives.
Sure. And I'll note also that there are some hot topics on the city's website, on the front page of the city's website, with links to where residents can subscribe to those email requests. And then there's also a link to the current traffic restrictions and current projects that service as well.
Excellent.
So folks can check those out and get more information there as well. Well, James, we really appreciate your time today, and thanks for giving us all these updates on everything. There's always a lot going on with Public Works. Quick plug that there is a Facebook page for the City of Oshkosh Public Works Department, and folks are encouraged to like that and follow that as well. Yeah,
it's still very new. It's only been a little over a year since we launched the City of Oshkosh Department of Public Works Facebook page. We work with a communications consultant to push a lot of information out that way as well.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the time, Andy. Always a pleasure.
All right. And we'd like to thank you for joining us as well. If residents would like more information, please visit the city's website at www.oshkoshwi.gov. Thanks for watching, and thanks for staying informed.